Thank you. There's nothing like a build-up, is there? Good afternoon, colleagues. For the last 13 years, I've been the head teacher of Exeter Road Community Primary School in Exmouth, Devon. I love my job. I love the joy that every day brings. I love working with the children and I love working with the staff, all of whom are dedicated to serving the children of the community. Now, I'm not the best school leader in the world. I'm not even the best school leader at this conference. And on some days, I'm not even the best school leader in my school. But, like many of you here, I am an outstanding school leader. I'm outstanding on the playground in the morning, and I'm outstanding on the playground at the end of the day. I visit every class most days, and I talk to the children and find out what they've been learning. I have lunch with the children. I know every child in the school, and I know their families. I am the crucial human interface between our school and what's going on in the community. And my professional motivation is to do the very best that I can to provide the highest quality of education possible to the children at my school. And I'm sure that's also true for those school leaders here. So every day, I see the consequences, unintended or otherwise, of every government policy or education department initiative. Therefore, I'd like to talk about my lived experience at my school over the last 13 years with reference to the 5 NAHT priority campaigns and why I think they are crucial in this current educational landscape. And I'll start with child poverty. When I became the head teacher at Exeter Road 13 years ago, the percentage of children receiving free school meals was around 30%. In the January census of 2022, that figure was at 45%. And the true measure of deprivation is probably much higher. But even that rise in poverty in my school's community is shocking and stark. What is also concerning is the growing number of our families who are using the local food bank regularly. In fact, the local food bank has given me emergency rations to pass on to families in crisis. When I first became a head teacher, I'd not heard of food banks outside of the work done with the homeless in London. But now they're a vital part of our local community support. What century are we living in? And last Christmas, the Salvation Army provided presents for 10 families at my school. 8% of the children at Exeter Road had Christmas presents provided by charity. This is Dickensian. We've also recently noticed a rise in children coming to school tired as they've had no heating on at home and have found it difficult to sleep on cold nights. But I think the most worrying increase I've seen in our community is the deterioration in the mental health of some of the parents coming to the school. The constant pressure and worry about paying bills, feeding children and finding the rent takes its toll. After morning drop-off, we regularly have parents in tears, overwhelmed with financial concerns and worries that they cannot provide for their children. There's a massive amount of research that says that poverty is a huge barrier to children's success at school. Overcoming that barrier at Exeter Road is a significant part of the work and a growing part. And my staff undertake that daily. And that's even before we get to teaching the curriculum. Now, this government's aspirations contained in its recent white paper can only be realistically achieved by tackling poverty. By largely ignoring the issue of child poverty, this government is not taking the success of all children in education seriously. Stop wasting time and energy talking about structural reform and get on and deal with the real issues. This leads me on to another of NAHT's priority campaigns, invest in pupil and family services. Back in 2009, when I first started at Exeter Road, we had part of our school site used by the local children's centre to deliver a range of support and services to the community. However, these services were cut during the austerity years, and our children's centre can no longer provide the level of service that local families need. The services that families at my school rely on have become difficult to access. My school has stepped in to provide some much-needed support. such as parenting courses and baby and toddler group. But we're not funded to do this work, and it's becoming increasingly challenging for us to provide this support. And I, as every school leader in the room will also attest, I'm sure, accessing mental health services for children in my school has become almost impossible. As a school, we do all we can to help with children's mental health issues, but still there are a growing number of children whose needs outstrip the resources we have. They need professional help. But unless these primary-aged children are in extreme danger to themselves or others, the wait for help is interminable. I know it's not just my school finding this. The systems that support children and their families are broken, and this is a national scandal. Now on to school funding. In 2012, our school was well funded enough to have a teacher to support one-to-one tuition of reading, a teacher to support one-to-one tuition of maths, and a teacher to teach quality music across the school. Since then, all those posts have been cut due to real terms decline in funding. I now find it painfully ironic that the government has set targets for reading, writing and maths and has suggested that one-to-one tuition may be one of the tools we could use. In 2017, I had to make some general teaching assistants redundant to balance the budget, taking away valuable classroom support that benefited all pupils. Running that redundancy process was one of the hardest periods in my time as a head teacher. I was making decisions that decreased the quality of the education we could provide as a school. I could go on and on, listing the cuts I've had to make over the past 10 years to get my school's budget to balance. But my school's biggest funding challenge is with the current state of funding for children with special educational needs. SEN funding needs fixing urgently. Exeter Road is a magnet school. Just under 10% of our pupils have an education, health and care plan, and we regularly have children joining our school as their needs cannot be met elsewhere. However, although we take pride in our reputation for including all children in our work, each time a new child joins the school with an EHCP, it's a blow to our financial plans, as the high needs top-up funding provided does not meet the actual costs that we incur. It's not right, and it's not fair. It's not right that the actual cost of a place is not fully funded, and it's not fair that we have to divert resources from other children to meet another child's needs. I hope you will all join the NAHT campaign cry that we need to fix school funding now. Another of NAHT's priority campaigns is to restore pay in education, and for me, the pay of our vital support staff needs to be addressed as a matter of urgency. Exeter Road is a great place to work, and we have a good local reputation for how we treat staff. And it used to be the case, when we advertised for teaching assistant posts, we would have tens of applicants to sort through for shortlisting. However, in the last 18 months, positions at this level have been difficult to fill. We have 1 or 2 applicants, and in some cases, no applicants at all. We have also offered posts to people who have subsequently pulled out when they've calculated the pay. We are finding it increasingly difficult to compete in the local jobs market. This leaves children without the support that they are statutorily entitled to because of their special educational needs. And this very month, one of my best full-time teaching assistants was evicted from her home as she could no longer pay her rent. We must have pay levels in schools that enable us to attract and keep high-quality staff at all levels. The children deserve no less, and we must not be shy to speak up about the pay for teachers and school leaders too. Now, 4 of the NAHT priority campaigns are highly relevant to all 3 nations and Crown dependencies. However, the priority to end forced academisation on schools is uniquely English. Exeter Road is not an academy. We're a proud local authority maintained school, proud to be in the Devon family of schools. However, we're also part of a cooperative trust of 3 local schools and part of our local learning community of 13 schools and academies. We're also part of the South West Institute of Teaching, a huge collaboration of schools, academies and other institutions. The current Secretary of State has said that he wants all schools to be part of a strong family of schools. And although we're not part of a multi-academy trust, we are part of several strong families of schools, and we get the challenge and support that we need from a range of different people in a range of different institutions. Now, I've got no issue with Exeter Road joining the multi-academy trust if that would provide benefit to the children at the school. And we've been approached by a couple of MATs over the past 3 years asking us to join them. Still, we've not joined the MAT as currently there seems to be no tangible benefit for our pupils, though it's something that we keep under constant consideration. But I firmly believe that the governors and the leadership of the school should not be forced into an academy trust, particularly if this removes it from a family of schools of which it already is part and from which it already benefits. So from my lived experience, I would say that the NAHT is spot on with its current choices of priority campaigns. End child poverty, invest in pupil and family services, fix school funding, restore pay in education, and end forced academisation. Suppose the governments of Northern Ireland, Wales and England truly listen to the voice of school leaders on these issues and work with us to address them. In that case, we could truly begin to fulfil the promise that education offers to all children. Now, this year marks my 30th year in education. During my career, the best schools that I've worked with or visited or worked in are those run by people who have a strong culture of compassion and humanity for their pupils and staff, people who care about how others are treated. My school is a place of warmth, humanity, security, and a place of learning and fun. I genuinely love my job. There's always joy to be had. For example, in the middle of the autumn term, our community warmly welcomed 26 children of refugees from Afghanistan into our one-form entry school. Every year group, from nursery to year 6, except for year 1, accommodated at least one child from Afghanistan into their class. The joy has come from watching these children who were nervous and frightened at first, grow in confidence and develop friendships with the rest of the children in the school. On the cold, dark days of January and February, watching the children play together, even without a commonly spoken language, brings home the warmth of the academy that I know exists in many schools and academies across our 3 nations and crown dependencies. However, over the last couple of decades, I have witnessed how some of the warmth and humanity has been driven out of the education system. This was highlighted during the pandemic by the way that school leaders were treated by government messaging. There were several examples where government organisations displayed a lack of empathy, warmth and compassion, and even an utter contempt for the collective wisdom of an experience of tens of thousands of school leaders. Whether this was a disregard for school leader well-being by the poor timing of the latest guidance for schools, or the messages that inspectors would continue despite soaring rates of dangerous virus ripping through the school communities. No wonder school leaders are leaving their jobs in greater numbers than ever. Putting more thought and consideration into the policies, decisions and messages that target all school staff costs nothing to implement. I would like those working in the government of the 3 nations, the Crown dependencies, Estin, the ETI, Ofsted, etc., to listen carefully. When you're formulating your latest WYSI policy or long-term strategy, take more care and think about the people who are working hard and doing their best in schools and academies, and amend your policies, plans, strategies and messages accordingly. Those working in schools deserve nothing less than your respect and support. Now, one of the reasons why I became an active member in the NAHT is I believe that our union is rooted in compassion, humanity and solidarity. Compassion for those living in poverty by actively campaigning to end child poverty so that every child can grow up in conditions that enable them to come to school well-fed, well-rested and correctly clothed, so they can fully engage with the incredible education opportunities that we provide for them. Humanity in the understanding that being a parent or carer is not an easy job. The human condition is complicated, and there are times when people need help, which is why we are campaigning for investment in pupil and family support services. And we stand in solidarity with our colleagues as we campaign for better pay for those working in education and better funding for schools and academies. Colleagues, I'm sure that all of these priorities will be raised again during our policy conference. Please do get involved and add your voice, your experience, your compassion and your humanity to the debates. Let us show our solidarity on these issues. And one final thing. It's disappointing that the Secretary of State for Education or one of his ministers was not able to speak in person at our conference this weekend. It's disappointing, but it's understandable. It's understandable that someone who supports the leadership of Boris Johnson is unable to be here to look in the eye a group of people who truly understand what it means to be a leader. School leaders know and live by the Nolan principles of leadership, selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness and honesty. It is shameful that the current Prime Minister of this country does not. Colleagues, thank you.